You could be mistaken for thinking some of these places are on other planets in our galaxy, but our earthly planet is dotted with surreal, eerie, and downright bizarre places. With some places having logical explanations for these strange occurrences, most of our list contains places that science is yet to understand. Here is 15 places the Earth acts in strange ways. Number 15. Yellowstone National Park. Yellowstone National Park is one of the most beautiful parks in the world, located in western United States and home to thousands of animal species, flora and fauna. The most interesting thing is that all these species live atop the Yellowstone Super volcano. If you ever visit this park, don't be surprised if you don't see a volcano. That's because this supervolcano lies underneath the park. Its most recent eruption occurred 640,000 years ago, the oldest occurring over 2.1 million years. It has over 500 geysers which release pressure from water underground, by spewing jets of water and steam into the air, constantly reminding us that this volcano is alive and active. Its most famous geyser is the Old Faithful, erupting water as high as 184 feet. Some scientists believe that this volcano is due for an eruption, but don't be worried, as a team of scientists are constantly monitoring this active volcano for even the slightest signs of an impending eruption, measuring seismic data for changes that might indicate increased activity. But what would happen if a super eruption occurred? Its effect will be felt worldwide, with much of the Earth being covered in falling ash, resulting in drastic changes to the global climate for decades, and most likely wiping out half the world's population. Number 14. The Hang Son Doong Cave. While Yellowstone supervolcano is the largest in the world, Hang Son Doong is the world's deepest and longest cavern. Located near the Laos and Vietnam border, its cave passage is the largest in the world. The main chamber of the Hang Son Doong cave is more than 3 miles long, 660 feet high and 490 feet wide. The cave is so large it can comfortably fit an entire New York City block inside, including the skyscrapers. The cave was only recently discovered in 1991 by a local man who was searching for timber. He had heard a whistling sound of wind and the roar of a rushing stream when he stumbled across a steep descent. The descent was so steep it discouraged him from entering the cave. It was only in 2009 that British cave researchers, with the help of the local man, succeeded in finding the entrance to the cave. The researchers had to scale a 196-foot high wall, which they named the Great Wall of Vietnam, to continue their expedition. The cave is so massive that there are lakes, beaches, trees, and rivers inside it, and our current technology is not capable of mapping its full extent. As you can imagine, this untouched underground world is home to a variety of flora and fauna, including stalagmites that are 265 feet tall and cave pearls the size of baseballs, all which have caused cave experts around the world to nickname this cave the Garden of Eden. Number 13. The Ross Ice Shelf. The Ross Ice Shelf is a floating tongue of ice that extends off the continent of Antarctica. It is the largest ice shelf, roughly the size of France, and has a thickness ranging from 700 feet near the sea to over 4,000 feet away from the floating edge. When researchers decided to drill down into the Ross Ice Shelf to better understand the icy continent's past and the Earth's historical climate change, they were startled to find the most bizarre creatures. Thankfully, cameras were around to capture the unusual behavior of regular fish and jellyfish that swam upside down. These creatures treated the bottom of the ice shelf like the bottom of the ocean floor. Unfortunately, they didn't manage to capture a new species which they dubbed the egg roll for its unusual way of moving around the ice shelf. They described the creature as a large sea cucumber, and though they tried to collect a sample, they sadly could not. Nevertheless, these researchers will have their hands full with analyzing this new and bizarre ecosystem. Number 12. The Danukil Depression. The Danukil Depression is a vast plain in the north of the Afar region of Ethiopia. As you approach the Danukil Desert, you will come into contact with the Afar people, a group of people who live isolated from the world and who are closely related to the ancient Egyptians. The Danukil Desert breaks many records, often referred to as the cradle of humanity. The earliest human fossils were found here, dating back a mind-blowing 3.2 million years ago, prompting many paleontologists to propose that this area is where the human species first evolved. Another record-breaking fact is that this is the hottest place on Earth in terms of year-round temperatures, as well as the lowest place on Earth at 410 feet below sea level. You could easily mistake images of the Danukil Depression to be those of the planet Mars. The dry, arid landscape so closely resembles the planet that scientists are even studying it to better understand how life forms on other planets. The depression is essentially a molten, acidic, and bubbling expanse of land, containing a mixed bag of minerals, salt, sulfur, and dissolved iron, all of which manifests into a vibrant combination of yellows, oranges, and reds. While people do visit the Danukil Depression, it isn't for the faint of heart. With toxic chemicals and an average daily max temperature of 106 degrees Fahrenheit, the heat is intense and made that much worse due to what locals call the afar wind, an event in which the boiling breeze makes your skin feel as if it is being burned. Number 11. The Eye of the Sahara. The Sahara Desert is the largest in the world and can easily be seen from space. But when the first astronauts went to space, they noticed something within this massive desert that no one had ever seen. Called the Eye of the Sahara, it is a 30-mile wide swirl that resembles a bull's eye or snail's shell. It cannot be seen when walking around the Earth due to its massive size. This geological quirk was believed to be a crater caused by a meteorite, but now it's thought it was once a dome that has eroded over time. But even now that we've found it, scientists don't fully understand it. They think the eye formed more than 100 million years ago. One theory is that molten rock below the ground pushed up to the surface but didn't make it all the way, creating a dome of rock layers much like a very large pimple. As the main continent of Pangaea was ripped apart into Africa and South America, the dome erupted, which caused the partial collapse of the dome, and erosion did the rest of the work to create the Eye of the Sahara as we know it today. Astronauts particularly like looking out for the eye, as it breaks the monotony of the plain sanded Sahara Desert and has now become a key landmark. Some people believe that the Eye of the Sahara is actually the remains of the city of Atlantis, which Plato described as concentric rings of water and land. Number 10. Bloodfalls. The Antarctica makes our list again, this time inside the Taylor Glacier. The Taylor Glacier is roughly 34 miles long and is home to a blood-red waterfall. The glacier, which looks like it's weeping blood, was originally thought to be red algae, when in fact over 2 million years ago the Taylor Glacier covered over just a small body of water. This body of water contained an ancient colony of microbes and other small organisms. As temperatures dropped, the water was totally sealed over by the glacier, removing all light from it. Here, in this sealed off body of water with no light, no oxygen and very little heat, under these conditions you would think nothing could survive. Yet these microbes did just that for millions of years. When one day a tear in the glacier developed, causing this ancient colony of microbes to ooze out and cascade slowly out the glacier. As it gets into contact with the salty Antarctic Ocean, the water oxidizes and takes on a red coloring, giving the effect that the ice is bleeding. The whole process takes roughly 1.5 million years for the water to travel through the cracks and fissure of the glacier. Scientists have become interested in these microbial communities that have lived in extreme conditions for millions of years, as they may resemble the beginning of life on Earth, even before oxygen was largely present in the atmosphere. Number 9. Fairy circles. The Namib Desert is the oldest in the world, so it should be no surprise that it makes the list. It is filled with life as it lies along the western coast of southern Africa. These coastal winds giving much needed moisture to the life in the desert. However, deep in the Marienfluss Valley, there are circular patches dotted all over the land that are barren of plants. They look as if the work of gods or aliens. There is still no official explanation as to their origins. However, one theory is that due to the lack of water in the desert, the plants organize themselves to maximize this scarce resource. They grow in circular patches to capture the water, which then flows to the outer edges of the ring. Another theory is that below the soil lie termite colonies that clear the vegetation in the area around the nests, creating these circular patches. When they encounter a smaller termite colony, they destroy it and take over the territory, but when two colonies of a similar size face off, Neither can overcome the other, and they establish a border. Number 8. Blue Volcano. The Kawaijin volcano on the island of Java, Indonesia, has two of the most unusual occurrences on Earth. The first is an active volcano that emits hot flammable electric blue lava. While all other volcanoes spew out red lava, the Aegean volcano has so much sulfuric gases that when it comes into contact with the oxygen-rich air, it burns an electric blue flame. The flames are difficult to see during the day but illuminate the landscape at night. Along with this blue volcano is a second stunning natural occurrence of a 620-foot turquoise-colored acidic crater lake, which is the highest in the world. These milky turquoise waters may look inviting for a swim, but you wouldn't want to take a dip here. The pH of the water in the middle of the lake is measured to be 0.13 and is due to the high concentration of sulfuric acid. Upon contact, sulfuric acid can cause severe chemical burns and even secondary thermal burns due to dehydration. It is very dangerous even at lower concentrations. The Aegean volcano holds another darker secret. It is home to one of the world's most dangerous sulfur mining operations. After the blue flames extinguish, solid sulfur rocks are left behind, which the miners extract, carrying these large loads in baskets down the side of the mountain to be paid per kilogram. Number 7. Lake Hillier. Staying with oddly colored lakes, we move to Lake Hillier, located on an island off Western Australia. This stunning lake can be spotted from miles due to its brightly colored shade of pink. The vibrant pink is permanent and does not change color even if you collect some of it in a container. Its color is something of a mystery, but some of the most commonly accepted theories relate to the lake's high salt levels. Other theories are that it is due to a naturally occurring presence of a type of microalgae which stains the salt pink. Nevertheless, this pink lake is best viewed from the sky. It is surrounded by eucalyptus and paperback trees as well as a sandy beach. Lake Hillier is about 10 times saltier than the ocean, and the entire lake is rimmed in a salty crust. Despite these high salt levels, the lake is perfectly safe to swim in. But good luck with that, as no visitors are allowed to the lake. Number 6. The Dharavaza gas crater. Also known as the door to hell or the gates of hell, this natural gas crater is located in Dharavaza, Turkmenistan. Legend has it that the site was discovered by Soviet Union engineers in 1971. It was originally thought to be a substantial oil field site, which caused the engineers to set up a drilling rig and assess the quantity of oil. Surprisingly, they instead found gas beneath the drilling rig, which then collapsed into a wide crater. The crater, measuring 225 feet in diameter and 100 feet deep, triggered large quantities of toxic and deadly methane gas to be released into the air. To prevent the spread of these gases, the scientists set the crater alight, which burned brightly, giving it the name Door to Hell. At the time, the fire was expected to burn for a few days, but it has been burning since 1971. The Door to Hell is a popular tourist attraction for those visiting the area, with many people even venturing onto the crater's edges, which can easily collapse, although giving them the best view of the crater. Number 5. Loktak Lake. The Loktak Lake in the state of Manipur, India hosts thousands of floating islands called phumdas in the local language. This strange natural formation is found in the largest and only freshwater lake in northeastern India. Amazingly, these circular land masses are made of floating vegetation, soil, and organic matter in different stages of decay that have developed into a spongy surface, much like a trampoline. The thousands of floating islands act as a unique platform for fishermen to maneuver across the lake, allowing them to catch 6.6 million pounds of fish every year. This mysterious and whimsical place makes living in this neighborhood one of the most unique places on Earth. The lake has the world's only floating national park and is home to hundreds of aquatic plants, birds, and animals, including the Indian python. The endangered brown antlered deer is native to this lake, which has adapted its hooves to be able to walk on these floating islands. Number 4. The Histaden Lights. The Histaden Lights are unexplained lights that are observed on a 7.5-mile stretch in the Histaden Valley in rural Norway. These unusual lights were first reported in the 1930s, appearing both day and night. with increased activity in the 1980s, during which you could observe these lights up to 20 times per week. The lights, which look exactly like what one would imagine an alien spacecraft to be, are bright white, yellow or red and appear above and below the horizon. They are reported to move with enormous speed. At other times they sway slowly back and forth and sometimes even hover in mid-air. This incredibly strange phenomena has attracted countless scientists and ufologists, with none being able to prove their origin, while the flying orbs are even said to emit strange sounds before and after appearing, which adds much credibility to ufologists. Some scientists believe that the lights are linked to the natural phenomena like the northern lights. However, the exact cause of this phenomena remains a complete myth. Number 3. The Shilin Stone Forest. The stone forest in Shilin, China looks like something out of a fantasy movie. Its giant rock formations rising from the ground that look like petrified trees, thereby creating the illusion of a forest made of stone. The Shilin forest covers 150 square miles and from this picture almost looks like a theme park in Disney World. Until recently, researchers did not know how the stone forest was formed, but in 2020 they confirmed that the stone forest was underwater some 270 million years ago. When the sea slowly disappeared, the limestone in the rocks eroded by wind and water to create these spectacular stone pillars. The landscape is so large and labyrinth-like, it is split into many smaller parks, each with distinct landmarks including caves, waterfalls, and even an underground river. According to legend, the forest is the birthplace of Ashima, a beautiful girl of the Yi people. After falling in love, she was forbidden to marry her chosen suitor and instead turned into stone in the forest that still bears her name. Number 2. Surtsey. Surtsey is one of the world's newest islands. In November 1963, crew aboard an Arctic trawler was sailing near Iceland when they came across a column of smoke rising from the sea surface. At the time, they did not know they were witnessing the birth of a new island. The island was aptly named after the Norse fire god after its eruptions lasted 4 years, growing the size of the island to 1 square mile. The island is expected to remain above sea level for another 100 years, and no one is allowed to visit or live on it except for scientists. The island is a favorite among volcanologists, biologists, and botanists, as just as the continent of Pangaea was formed through volcanic eruptions, scientists are able to witness the evolution of life on a new island. Protecting the island is a priority for Iceland, which ensures all visitors must check themselves and their belongings to ensure no seeds are accidentally introduced into the ecosystem. In 2008, an improperly handled human defecation resulted in a tomato plant taking root, which was immediately destroyed. Number 1. Salar de Uyuni. A lot of places on Earth are considered to be unique and mysterious, and the Bolivian salt flats definitely qualifies. The largest salt flat in the world, containing some 11 billion tons of salt and measuring 6,575 miles. These salt flats are so large and flat that even NASA uses them to accurately position their satellites, as they can be seen from outer space. Located on a high-altitude plateau in the Andes Mountains, the area was once a massive lake some 30,000 years ago, until the prehistoric lake dried up, leaving just salt. At times, a thin layer of very clear water covers the flats, creating the world's largest natural mirror. We can see why it's popular among tourists and photographers. The flats are also home to thousands of flamingos who use it as a breeding ground, along with the nearby train cemetery that was left behind after the collapse of the mining sector. This beautiful and otherworldly terrain serves as a lucrative extraction site for salt and lithium, the element responsible for powering laptops, smartphones, and electric cars. To add to the strangeness of the area is the Inca Island rising out the center of the salt flats like a mirage. It sits atop an ancient volcano with giant cacti, fossils, and algae. Thanks for watching. Which one did you think was the strangest place? Tell us in the comments. And if you like this video, hit the thumbs up button and press subscribe to watch more.